All right, everyone. We already knew this anyway, but now it's confirmed. Link in the description, archived, of course. The DOJ mishandled documents in the Maralago documents case. It's a Jack Smith case with document retention and FARA and all of these other things. The National Archives. Several strange things have occurred over the last 48 hours. First, we get note that the, those classified headers that are covering up some of those documents in that famous photo of, there's the box and then there's a bunch of documents laid out and some of them have the classified header on them. Turns out that those were just sort of printed up. They weren't original to the documents. Documents could be not even classified. Of course, the random FBI agents raiding the Mar-a-Lago don't necessarily have an encyclopedic understanding of which ones would be like top secret or classified or something like that. We're also finding that they then misstored them. That is that they didn't even document like what order they were in, which box they were in, etc. Some of these things, by the way, fall broadly under the purview of the President of the United States and or former President. It's not like Joe Biden taking his homework home with him and stashing it in his garage next to his Corvette. Improperly secured, no reason to have it, apparently wasn't consulted. He tried to blame a staffer for that, actually. Or at his China center, that there were more documents there. Or Pence, who was never president, taking several documents home with him. He was not allowed to do so. He's not then a president of the United States. In Trump's case, he was fully cooperative with the National Archives. He was cooperative with the FBI under the advisement of both. He double secured the room in which these documents were kept. Most of the documentation in there wasn't classified anyway. There were framed Time magazine covers and random shit in there. Much of it probably had nothing to do with sociopolitics anyway. And he was entitled to take literally whatever he wanted home with him anyway. There's a legal precedent for that, which is why the indefinitely postponed Jack Smith case, in the end, I don't even think they care that it's been postponed, because it's not going to lead to a guilty verdict, because the jury instructions that are given out might actually include the line, hey, by the way, just to instruct the jury, the President of the United States is allowed to have classified documents on his property. He's allowed to take those with him. Well, so he didn't even need to give them up, but then someone at the National Archives got an itchy trigger finger and decided to bitch about this, leading to a raid for absolutely no reason when Trump was provably cooperative with the National Archives and the government at large over the issue to begin with, and had begun the process already of repatriating the documents, despite the fact that he didn't even need to do so. And a letter from Kim Jong-un. That's a personal effect. A copy sent to the National Archives makes sense, but it's his own personal correspondence. Was it in an official political capacity? Yes. Is that legally meaningful? No, absolutely not. We have the unredacted redactions from the Jack Smith filings on this topic proving all of this. We got that last week. We know that Donald Trump was fully cooperative at all times with the U.S. sitting administration, and the DOJ and the National Archives effectively colluded to raid the Mar-a-Lago. They wanted the sensationalism as a prelude to starting their trial, which they could have begun long ago had they wanted to, because they knew that he had the documents. If having the documents was the problem, they could have taken them to begin with. But they waited until election year, of course. They waited until the election began and he threw his hat in the ring. What coincidental timing. It took him a while. We know that they mishandled them too, in the sense of improperly filing them, improperly sorting them. They went through the Mar-a-Lago. They were taking Melania's fucking clothes. They were going through Barron Trump's bedroom, to find his pee jar and stuff like that, and all the other weird shit he must have in there. Nothing about the case even makes sense. It was improprietous from the get-go. It's arguably worse than even the artificially upgraded bragg charges, in that core, or the reevaluation of property totals based on guesstimates by unqualified third parties that we see in the New York case with Letitia James and Angaron, the Star Wars villain, or even Fulton, where you have an appeal active right now before the Georgia Appeals Court. They might take up that case and say, well, Fani Willis is too compromised. You need a new DA. She can't even continue to prosecute this case because she's too tainted. Arguably, it would be better for Trump if they keep her on the case, because the jury will cock an eyebrow and say, well, wasn't there a scandal involving her and the prosecutor? that was paid more than the others, even though he had less experience. It was his first major case, and they were banging and stuff. Well, that sounds a little bit strange now, doesn't it? It could taint the jury pool. Yeah, the prosecution arguably benefits if she's removed, which is the tragic irony in that case. So the DOJ, and we know also that the Biden administration was directly involved with this. There was a direct line of communication with multiple agencies with regards to the documents, only triggered once Trump decided to announce that he was running for the presidency, and not before that. Once it became clear he was going to run, all of a sudden he gets charged with all of these crimes. Again, it's totally coincidental that all of these individuals, many of which have ties to the DNC or were in open communication, or someone close to them was in open communication in some cases, with the Biden administration itself, literally meeting at the White House in a couple of cases, that all of these things happened to occur over a very short span of time. They decided to open the volley up with the Stormy Daniels hush money bullshit, which is falling apart in real time. Stormy Daniels' second day of testimony, even more bewildering than the first one. We'll get into that on today's live stream. We're watching all of these cases fall apart, and I think that people are beginning to put two and two together. And I don't mean like dedicated MAGA voters. Because if I talk to like dedicated MAGA, obviously 99% of them are going to side with Trump, assume that it's persecution. I know that I do. I base that not on his party or on Don himself, but on fucking look at the merits of the cases. There aren't very many of them. I think that it's beginning to seep, though, into independent voters. I'm seeing more people that were, and I can show you this. I know it for myself because I talked to a bunch of people. I talked to liberals, too. People that were on the fence, and they're like, well, you know, I'm not really Team Trump or anything. Some aspects of these cases are weird, but, you know, I retain an open mind. I'm seeing more of them come to the light and understand if the DOJ is colluding with the Biden White House and the National Archives is triggering a raid by the FBI after knowing that he had the documents for a prolonged period of time, with a legal precedent for him to be able to have those documents while he's fully cooperative on both security and document repatriation. When all of these things line up, and then you get the unredacted forms from Jack Smith's filings, and then you get this, what more evidence do you possibly need that this is a corrupt attempt at persecution designed to influence an election? It's just like with 2020 when the powers that be covered up the Hunter Biden laptop story, and then pretended first they pretended it wasn't real, and then they pretended that everyone was just obsessed with Hunter Biden's cock. Then they pretended that there was no chain of custody. We can't prove that any of this is real, even though you literally had some of the email recipients queried, and they were able to show that, yes, indeed, that portion was real. And then pretended, well, you're just obsessed with Hunter Biden. He's not even in politics, even though the real meat and bones was, hey, Joe knew what was going on, met with Hunter Biden's business associates. We got fucking pictures, we got emails, we got everything else. It's the same exact kind of cover-up that we see right now. The legacy media doesn't want to report on this aspect of the case. Now, does it? Do you see anything meaningful on CNN or MSNBC? They're trying to shelter their audiences, like with WikiLeaks releases, when CNN famously came out and said, don't look at these documents, that's illegal. You should just let us go through it, and we'll tell you what you need to know. That was a real dead ringer, now wasn't it? There was no suspicion there whatsoever. That's about all. Peace out.